how much of it is nature versus nurture? And then if we wanted to, another obvious, rabbit trail we could go down to is in social media, which is, does social media amplify our connectedness? I mean, supposedly some of the social media creators created it to improve the connectivity of people and to improve and amplify the interactions that people have. But then at the same time, I think what some of us are experiencing now is more antagonism. And then with the algorithms creating certain bubbles around what you're constantly viewing and just feeding you more of the same, you can just start going into a different state of mind, which is alarming to some folks. So there's a couple things there that I find interesting.
Well, one of the things is that the way that you go about getting Stephen King at one point in time. Now, I'm not saying one thing or another about Stephen King or how good of a human he is. I'm just using a reference to something that he mentioned at one point in time. But he talked about writing as being a way of transcending time and also teleporting thoughts, basically being telepathic. And he wrote in one of his books, I'm talking into your mind right now. Right? I think it's in his book on writing. But he's like, I'm typing into you are reading these words that I typed at a different time. I may have never met you, and yet I'm sharing these thoughts. Well, now you've got this telepathy that anybody at any point in time can share anything that they're thinking, whether they've thought through it well or not. And they can share anything that they have received from someone else, and they're sharing it back out again. And it doesn't matter how much they've really thought through or even digested the thing that they received, right? Sometimes I'll get things forwarded to me that the person didn't even read, and that will make me go like, wait, did you mean to send this to me? Like, this is pretty crazy stuff. And they're like, I didn't even read it. It's by this author, and that author, I know you like them. And I'm like, okay, don't do that because because I was totally prepared for this context. And you just sent me something, and this is not at all what I would expect to see from you, because I would expect that it would reach your threshold. Oh, well, it didn't because I didn't read it. I just forwarded it.
Yeah. Well, I think of like Twitter specifically, but you could probably apply this across social media too, Twitter X, as like our societal brain just thinking out loud. Like it's what's going on in our head. And so it's just now being made visible when it wasn't quite so visible before. And I think to my experiences about doing these things that had these visceral reactions in my own life, like there is something about social media that you do get in terms of the algorithm, it can shape around what you want to see. But then if you are connected with people that are different, you're also going to see what they see and how they see the world. And so you're going to be exposed to that. And you're going to have that reaction. We're all going to have that reaction, right? I'm going to have that reaction to somebody that I think is like way off the grid and morally or whatever. And I'm going to see that. And maybe it was already there before, but now I see it. Like now I didn't see it before, now I see it. So the sort of the act of seeing makes us aware of things like to a level that if you don't have a framework to prioritize and do something with it, kind of like what you said, Jim, like I don't want to see it. I don't want to know if this person died or not. Like if you don't have a way to handle that, then it can lead you to some dark places.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how would you control that in social media? Because you don't control the algorithm. I mean, I guess you could, if you had a lot of time and a lot of intentionality around it, I guess you could try to train your algorithm by only clicking on things that you want to see. But I think we've all experienced you do a specific Google search that somehow gets handed off to Facebook, and the next thing you know, just because you were looking at buying a new Ford truck,
right,
all of a sudden you start getting served Ford ads over and over again in your feed. And the algorithm's obviously got its own desires and own purpose and what they're trying to accomplish. And then you've got the same thing with just state of mind. I mean, just by You know, the friends that you have in your group, if they're all interested in a certain thing, you're probably going to be fed. So I guess you could go out and defriend or unfriend, all the people that you grew up with, and then try and seek out and alter your friendship group. But I guess the question is, with social media, I don't feel like you have as much control over the algorithm and what you interact with.
Well, I guess
go ahead, Jason.
Oh, I was gonna say, I think it depends on this. I think something like Twitter, X, Blue Sky, Threads, those are more topical. Like, you tend to connect with people that have some shared topical interest. Whereas Facebook, at least historically, has been more, or even LinkedIn, like people you've connected with probably in real life, and now you're there. So my neighbor might have a completely different religion or political view, but we're like literally next to each other. So I think, connecting with them on Facebook, we may not see things the same way, but they're my neighbor. So that kind of creates an interesting overlay. Whereas on Twitter, I mean, me and Jim met on Twitter before we met in real life, and it was a shared topic. It happened to be an Andy Stanley sermon. So that, I think you can shape, if you're shaping your algorithm like on social media where it's interest, I think you have more control over it. But for me, I use Feedly, so I just have my own feed. I put all the things I want in my feed into there, and then I use Feedly, and I don't rely as much on the social media feeds. Although I think the YouTube algorithm is a lot better, because YouTube, at least the long form content, tends to be more fruitful type of content, whereas like social media can be very like instant, like it's trying to get you to watch like a second, a few seconds. So it's more like, it's going to be stuff that's kind of more junk food. So I think the YouTube algorithm is better, one, because the content's better, but you could, I guess, still end up in some junky places on YouTube too. But I think the feed is going to kind of, reveal some stuff about ourselves too that we may not like, and so we might have to set boundaries around, what we use and how we use it. So,
are you a small business owner? Have you hit a glass ceiling where year over year you cannot rise above a certain revenue level? Check out Jason Scott Montoya's book, The Jump, to discover how to level up your leadership and pivot your entrepreneurial passion to the highest level.